pretty
Okay.
general. Go ahead. At the same time.
So in Buddhism, how would you define the difference between love and being in love?
Don't go there. No. Love and being in love. Why are you asking this question?
Because I
Stephen?
think there's obviously a distinction. They both
Yeah.
come from a similar place, but they provoke something different. So
We'll talk about that, because I think you're right, but they provoke something
Do
different.
they come from a similar place, or is it really that we just use
I
one
think-
word?
Could be. I think being in love is more manifestation of need. And love is more an act of giving selflessly to another person, or at least the motivation to do so.
Mhm. Well, you know, the first thoughts that came to my mind, this is a good exploration for people to meditate on. You know, love, being in love. And then I think of loving kindness, which is the word you hear in Buddhism a lot.
Mhm.
That's where you hear love the most, loving kindness.
Would you say love and loving kindness are synonymous?
Could be.
No, I mean, why would you
Could
have
be,
a distinction of the two?
but you know, what I really think is when someone says love, you have to ask them what they mean every time. You know, I love you. What does that mean? But loving kindness is really clearly defined, the wish for the beings to have happiness. Happiness meaning peace. So that's pretty clear.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm.
But that's not what we all mean when we use our vernacular of love.
Right.
And then being in love, that generally seems to be a romantic notion. You know, I mean, that's the only place I hear it is kind of in a context of I am in love. And it does seem to have more attachment, expectations. You called it need, but I would say expectations to have your needs met. But I don't know about in love. In love doesn't seem like a Buddhist concept to me, only I just know loving kindness. I mean, you know, so.
What does Buddhism say about romantic love? Or does it
Don't go
say?
there. Don't go there. I'm kind of being silly, but it's kind of like I just about had a grip on it there. Suffering. That's the word.
It's usually where it goes back
It's the
to.
thing about, like, you know, the karmic wind brings you to the person who you fall in love with and attach to, and then that attachment is kind of like suffering, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's the suffering piece. In the suffering piece, you know, we always do the three types of suffering. It's always good to have those right there at your fingertips, you know, so the ouch suffering, romantic love is not the ouch suffering. Feels good, right? For a little bit. I think it's very much tied to the second type of suffering, suffering of change, suffering of pleasure. As soon as something's very pleasurable, generally we're not able to simply stay with the momentary pleasure, let it be there, let it go, it's fine.
Suffering of change.
That is not romantic love. Romantic love is it needs to turn out a certain way.
Right.
And
It needs to keep going.
and it needs to keep going at this level.
Right.
And so in all the movies, all the novels, it never keeps going that way. And that's what makes our story of the pain, romantic love, if you're going to be a romantic, you must suffer. You know, I mean, there's no story otherwise.
Right.
That's why they always stop the
I was gonna
movie
say
when
that,
when the two get together.
Yeah.
You stop the movie
Yes.
because
And
there's
they
nowhere to go
wander
now but
off.
down.
You don't see them 30 years later.
No, I
usually.
never
On the
show.
2
story.
years later.
Yeah, 2 years later.
2 months
Oh, they
later.
finally got together.
Cut! You know, that's what makes The Graduate so great. At the end
I
of The
can't
Graduate,
remember
they're at the back of the bus, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just together, and they're like glowing, and then they just let the camera go for about 2 more minutes, and they're like,
Like, what did I just
Yeah.
do?
it's great, it's brilliant.
I never noticed that.
Oh,
last
it's
minute,
it's
because I
brilliant
was very
detail.
romantic when I saw that one. It was like, oh yeah. So suffering, yeah, suffering of change, the suffering that we call pleasure, right built in, actually from the very nanosecond that it arises, because we are mistaken. We have a mistaken consciousness from the beginning. We think something's there that isn't there. And we are either adding things that aren't there, or we're not seeing what is there. So we're just totally la la la. Yeah.
What's the third type of suffering?
Oh, the all-pervasive suffering. There's different words for it. Coggy doesn't. I can't remember. But
All-pervasive?
you call it all-pervasive.
Oh, there's all
All-pervasive.
kinds of different ones.
Yeah,
because
it's just
aging.
the suffering of being born with a mind and body under the influence of ignorance.
Basic ignorance.
You know,
Yeah.
we took these forms out of ignorance, and we thought something was there. I mean, I'm talking in very gross terms, like there's somebody there who goes, I want to be a human. It's not quite that gross, but there's a consciousness, it's immaterial, and goes through a bardo, and it's used to having a form, a human form, and thinks, that'll be it, I'm going for it. And we're back again with the sperm and egg, and we're a little baby zygote, and then we go through all the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, death, and we call it great. and then we have romance during it, adding suffering on to suffering. Does that that help?
Yeah, totally.
But I
It doesn't
think
really-
it's a very nice key to just to the love from the Buddhist point of view versus ordinary love is who is being cared about, and it's when you're actually love for someone from the Buddhist point of view, or loving kindness is caring about the well-being of the other
Yeah.
person, and that's quite, our love is, our romantic love can often be caring a lot about how we feel and what we're getting out of it.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
leads to,
Sometimes,
Yeah.
it's mixed with, there's
Yeah.
some caring.
They're not mutually
things.
exclusive
They're not
necessarily.
mutually. And you could look at having kids, where then you can see people more caring for the, really caring for their kids, how things go for them, and probably at the same time caring a little bit about how their kids reflect on me, or how they, how I'm, so it's kind of mixed. And of course, we're caring more about our kids than other kids, so there's that whole kind of, there is a sense of attachment that is with ordinary love, but
so really, the kind of love of loving kindness requires all the 6 perfections. You've got to be generous, ethical, patient, joyous effort. It's constant effort, right? And wisdom, concentration, in other words, focus. All of those can come into a really loving relationship. And then, of course, in the Mahayana path, someone just said this recently. Maybe it was you this morning leading the meditation. We have this love for the small circle of our family, our friends, our partner, and we want to kind of, this is the way I think about it, get that love free of suffering, get it free of it has to be like this, or I'm unhappy. The conditions, that are all based on my preference. Get it free of that and then expand it to everybody. All beings. We're always saying all beings. So we wouldn't, how do I want to say this? Of course we have different roles with different people. Like, I have a certain role with my son, my grandsons, my best friend. But the kind of loving stance or view I want to bring would not necessarily be different than a stranger on the street. It would just be, of course, we have different things to do, I'm not going to take the stranger home and, bake cookies for him in the house like I'm going to for the grandkid. But the view would be the same eventually. That's the whole equanimity and equalizing. That view of they've been my mother too. I've been their grandma too. It's a great question. It's a good one to ponder.
I had
What else? Go.
two thoughts. Early on, I wonder whether or not the romantic love is considered one of the 52 mental formations. They're very particular.
No, I don't remember it because it's not. It's just called attachment, I think, or desire. I don't know. I'd have to look at them and see if one matches up for it, but it doesn't quite.
Sivanch was saying that there are all kinds of very sort of subtle distinctions and differences amongst them, the way he was studying.
The mental factors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've studied them long ago and didn't memorize them, and I don't remember anything that would correlate straight across to romantic love. There might be pieces of that in there. Romantic love, I used to do divorce mediation, and we had to study the development of the idea of family. Romantic love did not exist anywhere on the earth till like the 1800s or something. It was like before that people just got together kind of out of we're strong and we need to work together and have kids, and it was more like practical. The whole idea of this romantic love, it still doesn't exist a lot of places in the world. It's kind of infiltrating India now, and it's causing a lot of generational difficulties because parents picked your partner not based on romantic love. Romantic love's very individualistic. You pick, the individual. But a lot of places people partnered up not for those reasons, many other reasons, not saying they're better reasons. It'd be like the king has to pick a proper husband for the princess, or, so romantic love's pretty new.
It's kind of
And it's culture bound.
Yeah, it's definitely around like the sovereignty of the individual is a relatively modern thing.
Sure.
So that you get something and it's your like receiving the love, you in particular and only you. It's like that kind of leaves out the interests of the community to some extent, potentially.
Yeah, that's right. And the community would have more say. Without romantic love, it would be like this match makes sense for the community. What you two feel about each other, you'll learn to love each other.
That sounds like a bummer.
I don't know. I've talked to some people who've had marriages like that, and they said it worked out great. They were really happy. They weren't lost in the whole dating thing and picking. And,
Especially if you come out with different expectations.
But there, in a certain way, you can see a logic. If you think about it, you can see a logic to. Well, it's not all I don't put all my stuff on you, and then I bet all my marbles on you.
Right.
And now you better come through.
Right.
Or
So it's like
divorce.
my parents figured out we'd be good together. So So now kind of like, how are we going to make it work? And then you just kind of get to know each other, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't.
And you know, there's a lot of pressure when it's a community like that to make it work, and a lot of support to make it work. Like I watch my son has married into one of those kind of more traditional cultures, Persian Jewish. There is no way that marriage can fail. It's just like,
Not allowed.
it's not allowed, and the parents will do whatever it takes, money, time, to make it work. It's really important to stay together. So it's interesting. It sounds like a bummer, but it also has all that support to it. You know? You need a new car to make things better, we'll get you that. You know, you got to finish school, we'll make sure that happens. What does the baby need? We'll get it for you. You know.
And there are also different expectations for how much you'll actually share. It's not expected that you're going to be best buddies in every domain. Just
Yeah.
certain things, yes.
Yeah.
Quite. When we were first in India, we met this guy in Darjeeling in the library. He came up, and the introduction was very interesting. It's very mild, and he said, "Excuse me, but I wonder if I could beg a definition." And he had a word that he'd read someplace, and he couldn't find a definition, and he wondered if we might know the word.
And the word
Didn't.
was.
It was a very weird
Just
word.
trying
It's an
It was a
English
very-
word.
Yeah, it was an English
Yeah.
word. He knew 7 languages as well. He
Oh
was
my
very,
gosh.
very poor. Very, very poor. He
And
made his
very
living by
good.
engraving things.
Oh.
His livelihood was carried in like a little thing, sort of like an Altoids box with a couple of tools for engraving
Wow.
insides of rings. And we got to know him a little bit. And he was very curious about things. And he said, "Well, tell me, I've read," we were just amazed that like 30% of marriages wind up in divorce in the United States.
He was shocked by it.
And
Now
it's
it's
like-
50%.
It's like, this is, explain this. How could this possibly be? And I say, well, and it's like, you get along to a certain point, and people don't get along. They don't share the same interests and this and that.
They fall out of love. We
We
say
didn't
fall
say
out
that.
of love.
We just say, they stop getting along. He said, "Oh, if it was like that, 80% of Indians."
So you stop getting along and you stay married.
It's
Yeah.
like, that's not the.
It's expectations, I think it's back to expectations, and romantic love has a lot of expectations. So it's interesting. Yeah. Go for loving kindness. More reliable.
Well, the other thing I was thinking of was on the topic of all-pervasive suffering.
Yeah, the third type of
The third
suffering.
type, the arc that you describe is kind of the result of this kind of
Not craving
impulse.
the body, craving human life.
Even before craving the particular thing, the fundamental, and you mentioned the word, the fundamental ignorance, the missing, not seeing the basic nature, then there is this distortion.
Yeah.
And the distortion is the thing that is a constant impelling factor to kind of sort things out. And that from the point of view of the four veils, just not recognizing basic nature is the first thing. And then out of that, then there's this sense that things divide up into, well, there's me, somehow something's not quite working. And there isn't really anything other than the sense it's not quite working. And then there's the projection out to kind of sort everything out into something, maybe that's going to work better for me, or I'll get away from that. And that goes into more and more elaboration. So that whole cycle
Yes.
of existence rides on that fundamental not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But in
Yeah.
moment to moment, it's not just like that happened, a bazillion kalpas ago, whatever they happen to be.
Every
And
moment.
but it's like in every moment there is that kind of this distortion. It's kind of like this twist.
Like right now, all of
Yeah.
us.
All of it.
I
And
mean,
so
we can't, yeah. It's just a distortion that way until you're fully awakened. Well, is it a distortion at the 10th level Bodhisattva? I think so. Yeah, so that's how we're not awake. We don't see reality as it is. So everything we do from that not seeing it correctly is suffering.
And the suffering of change rides on that. The trying to sort things out requires a kind of stabilizing. So you make something stable.
Mm.
If I decide I want 5 marbles, I decide it's 5, and 5 is it. That's the thing. It's that needing to kind of
Hold it.
get it nailed down. I gotta hold it in place somehow. And so it's not suffering of change is sometimes described as like you had something it's going along fine, and then it broke, and then you're bummed out. Sometimes you'll see that, but I think the more fundamental thing is that holding on to it as
Yes.
a stable situation to start out
When
with,
it's not stable.
when it's really not
Yeah.
stable.
How we try to make pleasure last or get that away from me and keep it, that's already suffering. We're already tense suffering based on this not comprehending.
I've heard Chogyam Trungpa describe this situation, and he used like numbers. He used like numerology to say like, well, there's 0, and then like we had some primordial anxiety about 0 not being enough, or like we needed something else to confirm 0, which didn't need any confirmation in the first place. So we created 1. And then, before you know it, 1's not enough. You need, like, infinite numbers to confirm the existence of 0. So it's like this cosmic joke of, like, 0 was the only thing in the first place. So, like, grasping at different situations is kind of like that. It's like, how many situations do you need to confirm that you existed in the first place?
That's good. And then we add the negative number line infinitely.
Right.
That would be the aversion.
Extending the other way infinitely.
To again make 0 work.
Yeah.
And all of that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because we just don't see it from the get-go. But that's what we're working on. That's what's hopeful. We can do it because we have this Buddha nature, which is wise and kind and intelligent, and it shows up over and over. It just really shows up over and over. I mean, you can even say in a gross form it shows up like, there was kind of a famous picture that was at the war in Afghanistan, and here's this soldier all decked out in his really scary soldier stuff holding a baby who's dying, and I just looked at that and went, oh my God, kindness just shows up in the middle of total war, and it does. You see it over and over. That's the natural way we are. So that soldier picking that baby up, that's Buddha nature. And we see this over and over and over. In the middle of the concentration camp, there's a great book by a survivor, Viktor Frankl, I think, and he just talked about that, the kindness. He survived as a Jew in the camp, and the constant kindness between the the Jews there helping each other stay alive in these just horrific, in a hell realm. So, and then there's the story of the Buddha in the hell realm, and he showed kindness. He was going to help somebody push a cart that was full of something way too heavy, and because he showed the kindness, the guards got very angry and beat him to death. But he went instantly to a better realm because he just showed kindness. He couldn't help it. So, and we never know the impact on someone in really strifeful circumstances of us acting that way. I'm sure that the Buddha doing that had more than the impact of just him. People saw that. We kind of can't help but our Buddha nature just comes out.
My question was, how do we cut through grasping?
How do you?
How do we cut through grasping?
Yeah.
How do we relinquish that habit?
So how do you do
Yeah,
that,
it's
Ryan?
so simple. How do I do it?
Yeah, I assume you're working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think bringing awareness to the grasping itself helps. I am reading Ringu Tukul, Ignorance Arises as
Confusion arises
Confusion
as
arises.
wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great
And
book.
so I'm pondering that question in the context of that book, and there's this kind of approach is that whatever arises, like the appearance is the radiance of the Dharmakaya, meaning so the appearance itself isn't necessarily bad, it's the grasping at the appearance that is the thing that binds you. So I guess I'm struggling with that, I see that, I can understand that conceptually very well, but experientially it's not what I go through every day,
Yeah, I do know.
So the right,
Yeah.
but the method I currently use is to bring awareness to it, and then in the moment of bringing awareness to that appearance, its emptiness is immediately apparent, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah. Because
So
the habit,
it doesn't. Well, it's.
you still grasp.
Yeah, I still grasp. So the work isn't done, obviously. But do you have any advice, I guess, is my question.
We covered that this morning.
Yeah?
And you missed it, but it's online, so. What do you share?
No, I'm just thinking. So yeah, okay, getting over. It's like we haven't been trying this forever and ever. It's not the whole point of all of the Dharma practice, every single method.
And every moment. That's why I said to you, what are you doing? Because you're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
it's a whole path.
Just keep going.
it's a whole path.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is the whole path.
Okay.
And our habit, the piece I do want to, the habit, my teacher used to say when I would ask her stuff like this, and she would say, well, how long do you think you've been developing that habit of grasping?
Yeah.
Well, that was the end of that discussion.
Yeah, it seems like the question is how long do you expect it to take?
Yeah. And that's what
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Yeah. And
Okay, I can deal with that answer.
Yeah, and we get tripped on those expectations because,
Yeah.
and in fact, it's kind of important to notice them too. They're just states of mind, but there's a little difficulty with them because if we really hone in on them and they're not met, people will leave the Dharma over that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, like I tried that over and over and it didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm going off to follow, whatever, and see if that works.
I guess-
So it's not a realistic kind of.
I guess what I'm getting from this is that's helpful to me is that the understanding of the problem, the deepness of that problem, is something that can help me.
Mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
that's very, very important.
Yeah.
Anybody who's making kind of a sincere effort really has to get at home with that.
Yeah.
You really have to be comfortable with, oh, I see, this is not comfortable in a kind of ordinary sense, but really kind of, yeah, that's what the situation
I'd say
is.
familiar. Get
Yeah.
familiar
Mm-hmm.
with that.
So I guess the
Yeah.
the question really that I'm asking then is like, how do I become very familiar with that? Is there a contemplation, any number of contemplations you would recommend for getting familiar with the deepness of that problem? Like, we've been engaging in these habits from endless time, so what are some relative conceptual ways to familiarize myself with that?
Or noble truths.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
we
suffering.
really glossed the whole thing on suffering. Okay, I've got it down. And we really don't have it down about our own suffering. If we really did, we would practice like our hair was on fire. That's the saying. I mean, like some of the lamas, Lama Songtsing, when he put us into first 1 year retreat, he said, you need to understand that you are in, he used two images, they're classic ones. You are in a pit of snakes. You are in a cesspool. And we're sitting there going, I don't think so.
Seems like that.
It seems pretty good. I've got food and clothing, and it seems pretty nice. But he's talking about mentally, that's how far we are from true freedom from all that. We're just so used to suffering. And the other piece that helps me is Venerable Chidran always referred to low-level happiness. And I loved that phrase. First, I didn't know what she was talking about, but she said, we settle for low-level happiness all the time. So it's like, oh, I feel kind of scritchy, I'll get an ice cream cone. Oh, I think I'll watch a movie. These things that kind of comfort us, but they're always, in a way, they're fine to do, but they trick us. Because it's like, ooh, I'm starting to feel my suffering. Gotta do something so I don't feel that. And that's why I say the Four Noble Truths, suffering, the cause, the end of it, and the path out. That's the whole arc. And we just gloss over it. So I'd say do some studying on those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some deeper studying on those. And then apply it to self, I mean, like, I have to say, I'm really enjoying getting older because it just hurts almost all the time. It gets harder and harder to fool myself. Like, I wake up and my body hurts. And I'm like, oh my God, how long is this going to go on? And when you're young, you can, maybe get sick a little bit, but most time you feel pretty good.
It's easy to fool ourselves.
So it's like the suffering of aging gets really clear. But even at your age, you can sit there and it's like this. Can I stop my aging? I would like to just choose, for a little bit. No, you are not in charge. You cannot stop it. Forget that. You have a chip in you and it's embedded. You're not going to get it out. It has the date of your death on it. You can't change it. You can't reprogram it. These are like really good meditations. That one scared the heck out of me. like, I got a chip in here with the date of my death. It's ticking away. Not even Buddha can stop it. The Pope, my mom.
It's hard to make that real, though, sometimes. Like
I
you're
know.
saying, it's a gift, I mean,
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
to grow older. And
You make it real on the cushion first. I mean, not first, but really get something that works for you to get that experience. Because the funny thing about it is, you are experiencing it.
Mhm.
We all are. But we dress it up as though it's not suffering. I find that fascinating. I do it all the time, but it's like, why am I dressing this up as non-suffering? So I'll feel better while it goes on. It's like I'm in the boxcar on the way to, be burned up, and I'm decorating the thing, It's like, hello? Wake up, sweetie. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that's really real for me too. Like whenever I run into anything significant, if you're really stuck, it's always the First Noble Truth. I'm just like, oh yes, there it is again. There's also like this painfulness of it too. It's like when I can really see it, and just even knowing, kind of similar to what you were saying, just knowing that I'm creating and moving towards suffering. And even like today, in these next few months, I've had thoughts. I'm like, these things are going to create suffering, and I'm going to do them anyway. And just seeing the whole thing and knowing that for a millennium or whatever, I just move in this direction, and it's just going to happen. And that's where my mind's going. It's what's going to happen. And I'm like, oh, this is painful. Like I can see that I'm going to just choose suffering. And I don't know.
Well,
it's better than not seeing it, I guess. But
yeah, the seeing it, but this is really important. You have to remember the third and fourth noble truth too. There is an end. There is nirvana. I mean, it's funny to say there is, like it's some place, but freedom from suffering is possible in any moment. And there are moments you do free yourself. You have to acknowledge those too. And then there's a path, and we're on it. Calm abiding is part of the path, insight's part of the path, practicing loving kindness part of the path. The Buddhist laid the path out because he got free. And he wasn't like, I'm free, now I'm going to save you. No, he's like, I got free, here's how I did it, do this. You will be free. So we have to remember the third and fourth noble truth too, or we get really like, oh my God, then it is awful.
We get lazy.
Lazy.
If we just kind of say, yeah, here it goes again, it's almost like we're sucked back into a kind of a helpless original sin frame of reference, where it's just going to happen.
Yeah, victim. Yeah.
I'm just stuck in this.
I'm sure I do that too, but I think what I'm referring to is that I'm working really hard to not make that happen.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to do it.
Still doing it. Yeah.
But don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
I mean, we will get discouraged, but notice the discouragement, and then remember see, this is like working the medicine cabinet, how we've used that analogy. So there's the medicine of understanding suffering and not backing away from it, which sounds like you're working on, which is good. But you don't want to only take that medicine. You might overdose. And you also want to then go, whoa, I'm getting really down now, discouraged or whatever. Then you want to go, time for a little bit of precious human life or loving kindness towards myself. So we have to work with that and balance it. I think I've told this story that one winter retreat at the Abbey, I was reading a philosophical book on emptiness by Jeffrey Hopkins, who's like he's really intellectually got it down and parses it. And he had this one thing in there where he said, one time when he was young, he took on this practice of just going around and saying, I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong about this, I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong about this, and just kind of trying to challenge his assumption. So I thought, this would be really good to do during this retreat in silence. So after about a week or so, this nun friend came up to me and she said, God, Sophie, you seem really depressed. What is it that you're doing? And I told her, and she said, you look just gray, like, I'm wrong, nothing exists the way I thought. And I said, well, what do I do? And she said, switch to loving kindness. You've got to get some balance going here. And it was quite helpful. So we have to be skillful. It's our mind, and we have to go, this is knowing the mind. I see I've gone dark and victim-y here. Not saying you are, but, or I've gone discouraged, or I'm totally confused, and go to something and that you know which things uplift you. If you don't know them, then have an interview with a teacher, and you'll get some. I mean, that can be explored one-on-one. So then you have your tools. You're not always using the hammer.
The active cultivation of positive qualities, and that and I think that's actually perhaps even more important when we're in a midst of things where it really looks like we're just going to keep on pounding the thumb with the hammer.
Yeah.
It's like, I know. The notion of just stopping that can get really too much.
Yeah.
But we can actually say, well, what about going for a walk? What about this? What about that?
Yeah.
There are other things that we can really place our minds on that, and not think in the moments like, I'm going to get over this other thing, but I'm actually going to occupy my time and my energy with this other cultivation, and really kind of actively engage in that, and that's helpful. And it's just the basic old teaching of you have a pocket full of white stones and black stones, and you just kind of check, and just by checking.
Positive thought, negative thought.
The more you notice, positive thought. Put that there. It just shifts, but you actually have to actively do that thing, not just try to drain the situation, not just try to overcome something, put something into a box that's just really hard to just. It can be even harder to deal with it if we don't do that other thing.
Yeah.
Because it does the same thing that you went through with the.
Yeah, you can dig a hole, and you don't know you've dug it.
No.
And you might think the situations placed you there, but really you've dug it through habit. The other thing is to take a picture, a little assessment every once in a while, like I think, what was my mind like 10 years ago? Then I know practice is working. It's like I don't go off on people like I used to. I catch my discouragement quicker, and that's encouraging. And you just therefore go, oh, okay, I got that from doing this, I'll do this.
Sometimes I totally agree, and
Yeah.
I think this is everything you're saying is spot on what I need to be doing. At the same time, when I look at it, it feels like dressing up the funeral box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, am I just doing that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why that's the thing.
That's
You
good to
actually
say
really
no.
have to take it seriously. That just doing the positive things it really does have momentum. Doing the thing. Oh, I'm just dressing and I'm just painting the coffin.
Yeah.
That's kind of going back into this other frame of reference, which is the only battle is this battle against evil in my mind stream,
And I'm losing. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that. It's so So what I'm hearing you saying is that, like, okay, if you do have this habit of like slamming away at your thumb with the hammer, like just going and doing something different, which is still a habit and trying to escape the essentially negative habit in the first place, you're still engaging in a habit. So, but it's I guess I'm trying to understand, like, there's this tendency to want to, like, let's end the whole thing right now. You know, and like not have any habit at all. Not have any bad habit at all. Like, let's not supplement one
Yeah.
thing for another.
Let's not do
Let's
ice
just
cream
get it over
cones
with right
anymore.
now. But sometimes, like, that small movement to something less
Yeah.
damaging
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
fine.
We're positive.
It's not just less damaging. I'm just
There are good
you
It's
stop,
good.
stop hitting yourself with a
It's
hammer.
good.
Or I'm going to hit you with a hammer.
Oh, good, Bill.
I'm sure this will work.
But you get the message.
Yes, I wanted to
So
clarify.
sometimes
Yeah.
the ice cream cone's the most skillful thing to do.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
man, I'm just so freaking bummed out. And
Clear.
I'm going
Yeah.
into the
Crystal
dark,
clear. Thank
Yeah.
you.
dreary,
Yeah.
pit. Then go out for an ice cream cone,
Yeah.
and then, have your meditation or whatever. We just need to be creative and skillful with ourselves.
Or think, or just if you're walking around downtown or someplace, or an office, just think. I'll think something positive about the next person I see, just random,
Yep.
for no reason.
Mhm.
I'll just think of something very positive to think.
It's the fake it till you make it method.
Yeah.
And Lama Mike often says it, but fake it till you make it's really good, because it's about dressing up. I call it dressing up. That's what my teacher called it, dressing up like the Buddha. So eventually you'll be it. Like you wanted to be a doctor when you were a little kid, so you got a little play stethoscope. This is like get a little pretend positivity, and just do it. And pretty soon you end up being the doctor, going, "Wow, I played and played, and then I kind of got it."
Mhm.
So we can use everything. Melissa, you had something, or is it all gone?
No, it's not gone. I guess it's just with all of this, I've been contemplating the four thoughts, like you told me to, and I get stuck on the whole precious human birth
Yeah.
because it doesn't feel so precious to me.
Mhm.
With all the different realms, I can't actually see sometimes the benefit of being a human compared to, say, an animal.
Oh,
Because
yeah, that's
say
a great
an animal
question.
is kind of without any, they're inherently without fault, and it seems like they are. They're just
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
animal's an animal. They do
Yeah.
their animal thing. Where
Yeah.
we
So
have all of this
it's-
confusion.
Yeah, I see what you're pointing at, and it's really important to
That too.
do some readings on the 6 realms. But animals are so ignorant. They kill one another. Cats kill to eat. I mean, we don't see this anymore because we buy little canned food from. But in general, most animals are involved in a lot of fear, a lot of chasing and being chased, terrible fear, and they are why it's better to be human. Animals can't do this. They can't study the Dharma. They can't even. They have no sense of what is right or wrong.
Aren't they built, isn't it kind of built in? I mean, you're saying, it's just hard, right? Because in other cultures, say like Native American cultures,
They don't romanticize animals.
They
what
don't
what would
romanticize
build in?
animals?
No, they kill them and eat them, and
well,
they
with reverence and respect,
Yeah.
I guess. But I mean, we're animals in a certain way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just confusing for me.
Yeah, I
At the
hear
same
that.
time, there's a certain amount of guilt I'm working with because I don't feel gratitude towards my human form.
yeah. Well,
One thing that I thought about, like, so they kill and eat each other,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know right from wrong, but is right from wrong something that we impose on them?
Right.
well, karma is karma, and karma is not imposed on anybody. It just happens.
Yeah.
So if you have a habit of killing to eat, take out the words right and wrong. You're just a habit. That habit will be your habit. And how you gonna, that's not gonna be a habit that's gonna lead to happiness. That habit leads to suffering. Killing is a suffering kind of action. Now humans do it too, but they have kind of an extra difficulty with it, which this is too long to quick to go into. We've just got a couple of minutes, but I think, Melissa, if you look at some of the studying of the realms, like why is the human realm the optimal one, even according to Dharma? It's the optimal one to practice Dharma, which means to practice wisdom and compassion. You look at every other realm, it's quite difficult to practice wisdom and compassion in those realms. Awakened beings are wise and compassionate. So this is not about being like an innocent animal, because that would be all you would be. That's not an awakening. Animals are not awakened, as in wise, compassionate, aware, clear. Can you see that part? You think they might be?
Sometimes.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Don't hurry it. Take time to keep looking. It's a good meditation. Like, what is it about being human that might be the optimal situation to become an awakened being? You have to decide if you want to be an awakened being, which is the Buddha, which is free of all suffering and capable to free others. It does get confusing even, because even in the teaching, the awakened mind could take the form of an animal in order to save somebody. So, that adds a little spice to it. But that animal would be having a very different experience than your average animal. Because that animal, that consciousness has taken that form on purpose, like a bodhisattva, to just help in this one situation, like a dog that pulls someone out of a fire, But in general, animals are in a very ignorant, scared state. Eat or be eaten. We don't see it because we've domesticated our cats and dogs, but they are not the bulk of animals in the world. Our little domesticated cats and dogs. That's not the bulk of animals in the world. Look at the ocean. It's eat, be eaten, fear, run, chase. Just in the ocean, yeah.
Can I just
Last
say,
piece.
I know it doesn't seem unusual to have that experience when you look at that. I mean, that was my experience. And it is when I go back to those things like impermanence. I look at impermanence and I'm like, oh, I don't see the impermanence, I see permanence. Oh, when I look for the precious human birth, I actually don't see the preciousness of it.
Yeah.
Seems like that's the point in some ways, seeing what the problem is. And I don't know, that was my experience too, and it still is, like to a certain degree, maybe less so. But I don't know that that's unusual to have that experience of, oh, I don't actually experience it as precious.
Yeah, it's not
And
unusual.
then it's like, okay, well, let's keep moving into this.
Yeah, that's why we have to do that meditation over and over, because it's not an instant one,
Yeah.
not at all.
And if we're an animal, then why aren't we experiencing that?
Experiencing what?
What we think an animal should be experiencing. Like we are essentially animals, so then what makes us different and like...
Yeah, what makes us different from an animal? That's a good one to meditate
Yeah,
on.
supposedly we are animals.
But I would suggest there are actual guided meditations on these. I can give you some places to look it up. They're in the long rim,
It's a good question.
but where you can actually delve into what are these realms like, Okay, good discussion. how we dedicate our effort. And that way, I don't know, it'll keep going somewhere. By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state. Thank you. Good discussion. And I'm so happy 3 of you took refuge recently.
It was great.
Yeah? You didn't know that, right? You weren't there.
I know.
All of
It's-